Hey, how's it going, everyone? We'll see a lot of folks are trickling in, so we'll just give it a few more minutes before we kick off. Awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and kick things off because we've got a lot to cover, and it looks like we've already got tons of folks here. So my name is James Pendry. I specialize on the ITX side of the ServiceNow business, and today we are going to be covering the ITOM operations management with Predictive AIOps. This is the first of our 6 sessions during the fall, really covering ITOM talks, diving deeper into what ITOM can do to your business. And I've also got the brains behind the operation with me, a solution consultant, who I'll pass it over for an introduction.
Yeah, thanks, James. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Lauren Miller. As James mentioned, I'm a solutions consultant here at ServiceNow, specializing in IT operations management, or ITOM, as you'll hear us call it today throughout our session. And thanks again for joining part 1 of 6 of this series. Looking forward to seeing you here today and your questions, and hopefully at some of our additional sessions as we go through October, which is crazy. It's here already. And back to you, James.
Awesome. So just wanted to quickly cover the agenda for today. Really what we're going to be going through is the platform of platforms, just an overview of ServiceNow. Then I'm going to dive into an overview of AIOps, which is really a combination of the health and the health log analytics. Then I'm going to pass it over to Lauren for the demonstration, really starting to peel back some layers of the onion and getting the look and feel. And then we're going to open it up for questions and answers at the end. So here, what I just wanted to talk about from a safe harbor, please remember this presentation may contain forward-looking statements that reflect the current beliefs of ServiceNow and are based on current information available. These forward-looking statements should not be relied upon for making purchasing decisions. However, everything that we're talking about in this presentation is already in place within the ServiceNow platform, so it really shouldn't be a concern for today. So first of all, I wanted to go over the platform of platforms. And here at ServiceNow, we believe that every great experience is a great workflow. Here we can see that every company that you guys have today have a portfolio of legacy systems, cloud apps, and platforms. These are all unique to the department, but it does create siloed systems of record, which creates a challenge for collaboration and automation. That is where the Now platform is not going to replace those systems of record or add another one. You already have tons of those. What we can do is manage the workflow by working with those existing systems of record to understand the request, decide on the process, and enable users via automation and AI. The green box represents the platform, and we have a suite of offerings that encompass the IT workflows, the employee workflows, customer workflows, and even custom workflows powered by the App Engine. Today, we are going to be focusing on the IT workflows as we talk about event management. And finally, all of this comes together in the user interaction. You've already invested in various UI tools. I'm sure a lot of these at the top look familiar to your systems. And you've already invested in these UI tools, mobile apps, et cetera. The Now platform can deliver workflows directly into those interfaces to advance your digital transformation and integrate seamlessly out of the box. So really, why are we here? We're talking about customers have achieved great outcomes by running proactive operations powered by AIOps, helping them predict, prevent, and automate. We help IT teams like yours predict issues before they occur, prevent impact to users, and automate cross-team workflows for remediation. I'm going to dig into each of these a little bit more in detail, but wanted to just give a high-level overview before diving in. This is more just specific to ServiceNow and our SKUs. Within that, wanted to make it clear that our predictive AI ops offering consists of both ITOM health, which is really the event management portion, and the health log analytics. I'm going to start off with the health side of things and really talking about how event management works. So ITOM Health starts with helping IT folks handle the overwhelming wave of alerts they're getting from all the monitoring tools by aggregating that data to make it manageable and actionable rather than spending time sorting through the data that is not helping them to deduce the root cause. So as you can see here on the left side, all of the different processes that you guys might have, whether that's services, users, applications, cloud, producing all of this noise, and it's being pushed through, aggregating that data. And really what this leads to, once you're able to see that, is identify those early warning of potential service outages. It's going to improve your end user satisfaction with fewer service disruptions. This is where I've seen it most, is identifying root causes quickly and reducing event noise, and really getting a better operations experience driven by this service level intelligence. So diving even further into sort of how this works, we're able to deducing the data is one part of the equation. But when it comes time to take action, we want to leverage the automated workflows by presenting those at the fingertips of the operations team so they can take the relevant course of action to solve the problems at hand. This is where the knowledge portion comes in. And over time, as the operation folks find the automated workflows that remediate best for the specific events or the workflows prove themselves, we can configure the system to run those workflows immediately upon alert generation instead of waiting for that human interaction. And lastly, the part that I probably find the coolest is that as this knowledge accumulates over time, not only is the ops team learning how to leverage the system, but the system is actually learning from itself in a continuous feedback loop by detecting what course of actions are successful and where. This again leads to more proactive and intelligent remediation. So how does ServiceNow really deliver on this vision? It truly, again, starts with the data. ServiceNow prioritizes pulling in as much data as possible from all of these different tools. And that's so we can get a clear and correct vision of the organization. We do this via the mid servers as part of our discovery process, which is an agentless and connects to those monitoring systems that you have in place. And those tools can push data back to the mid server and then back to the ServiceNow instance. Data is then normalized before coming into the system, so we can sift out any redundant or unnecessary messages, so we have digestible number and actionable alerts. These alerts are also bound to the relevant CIs as found in the CMDB. This helps us get more relationship information from the service level, which becomes incredibly important for troubleshooting. Now to dive a little bit further into the health log analytics. The second part of the AIOps is obviously health log analytics. And really what that is just artificial intelligence, again, to start predicting and prevent business problems in your digital business. So how does HLA work? It's very similar to the logic that applied to alerts. You're going to, again, be collecting and parsing out those metrics in real time, starting to understand understand the normal behavior where those alerts are not normal or abnormal, start correlating those anomalies and identifying that root cause. And again, this is all leading to providing actions and insights and predicting incidents based on historical behavior. So again, leading towards being proactive rather than reactive. So this slide, I know there's a ton of information on here, but really it's just pulling it all together at the end of the day. So we have all the different log and metrics And this can be coming from any source. We're talking about desktops, on-prem, servers, smartphone, and devices we've even rolled out. That's going to be pushed into our analytics engine, where again, you're being able to have that connected to your different monitoring tools, all of the different ServiceNow tools, whether we start talking about SecOps down the road or any of the other ServiceNow apps. And all of this leads to reducing that mean time to ratio or to root, and then being able to identify that root cause for future preventions, really building knowledge. So again, talking about whether that's knowledge for your team or artificial intelligence, that's going to start providing insights to you. And it's going to help you prevent those critical outages. And overall, this is going to lead to business insights, which will help not only your business save time, but also reduce costs for unnecessary systems. So I know I've just thrown a ton of information at you, but what we wanted to really do is, again, give you a chance to understand what this look and will feel like. So I'm going to pass it over to Lauren to start diving into the demonstration portion of today.
Hey, thanks, James. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, kill my camera, so hopefully my Wi-Fi bears with us. Let me know when you can see that pop up, if you will. Can you see that okay?
Looks good.
Perfect.
Looks good.
And I know we have a lot of content to get through. Hopefully the demo will help cue some of this into the mind. If you have any questions, feel free to throw those in the chat or the Q&A, and we can take some pauses as we go through this. The deck and the recording will both be sent out afterwards, so you can always go back as well. But on my screen here, what we're starting with is really that first single pane of glass that you hear about again and again when it comes to event management and where you really need to start. James made some great points about aggregating all of those alerts that are potentially hitting your inbox 50, 100 times a day from the different monitoring tools that you have in place, needing to intelligently aggregate those alerts to come into one single pane of glass at the service level so you can see the statuses of your service and then start to dive in and use our machine learning to troubleshoot effectively. So on top of all that, this is kind of our main landing page when it comes to event management. So this is called our operator workspace. And in my environment here, this is my ServiceNow instance. And here we have a bunch of little squares. These are each representing a service that I have running in my environment. Some of these might sound familiar, my order status service, a production tool, a billing tool, whatever that looks like for you. And then we also have some dynamic CI groups, configuration items like these Linux servers here that I have added in and activated in my operator workspace so I can monitor them as I would a service. So for each of these squares, all of my services here on my single pane of glass, they also are color coded. And so I can see the status of my services based on the alerts impacting them at this point in time. So here at the top, we have our color key. Any service box that is red, critical alert is impacting it. Major, minor alerts are somewhere in between, orange, yellow, and then green for my services down here means we're in the clear for now. But these events are coming in real time from our different monitoring tools that we may have connected to event management, or if we have our ServiceNow agent deployed as a monitoring source, and we'll talk about how all that works in a minute. But in real time, as these updates are coming in, this could change at any given moment. A service could go from green to red. So being able to have that single pane of glass to monitor the status at the service level is incredibly important. So I'm going to start to navigate into my order status service here. I'm going to pop right into my alerts that are here at this present time. And right away, we can see that I have a group alert source. So I really want to talk further about the aggregation and how that works, what logic is actually running to intelligently group those alerts coming in. But first, I've popped open this tab at the service level. So before I look at the alerts, all in one place, all in my operator workspace, I have details about the service, the owners, all of that admin stuff that can be really important. I have metrics potentially coming in about my service that can be pulled in from different monitoring tools if they're pulling in metrics. Or again, you can deploy our ServiceNow Agent Client Collector or ACC to go ahead and pull in those metrics as well. So you have those brought into the operator workspace to keep an eye on from the metric perspective, query some metrics if you needed to do that as well. And we have a ton of other tabs giving us information still at the service level. But for today's presentation, I'm going to really focus on the alerts impacting this service today. So we have a group alert. I'm going to pop that open. So now I've gone from the service level of information to my group alert level of information. And so that aggregation piece, James touched on the noise reduction benefit. That is so important when it comes to event management. In my experience with operations, that can really be a game changer. Again, it goes from getting a million emails a day coming from your monitoring tools in the inbox. You have no idea what it's saying. They're all telling different things. How can we group those to be more effective and more efficient when it comes to acting on these alerts and preventing outages? So the best way I can kind of explain this is by looking at the source column in our alerts group here. You can see that in this case, we've grouped 10 different alerts and we're acting on them and visualizing them as one from the service level. So these are coming in from very different sources. These are disparate monitoring tools that I have in my environment. So a great question in our Q&A about Dynatrace. We do have an out-of-the-box connector for that one, as well as many other monitoring tools today, Zabbix, a couple of other ones. So any monitoring tools that you currently have, we can connect out to really get the most out of your monitoring investments that you have today. You also see some alerts coming in from my ITOM agent. This would be again, our ServiceNow ACC that I have deployed, pulling in those alerts as well. But the main point is that all of these 10 alerts were coming in from very different sources, and we'll touch more about this log analytics piece in just a moment. And what the system is doing with our machine learning is it's using CI-based patterns. So it's looking at all these alerts as they're connected and coming into ServiceNow. It's looking at the time they're coming in, where all these 10 alerts coming in around the same time. What configuration items or CIs are they impacting? And if they're different CIs, are they supporting the same service, that order status service that we're looking at? What are they telling me? What message are they sending? What are the anomalies that they're telling me about? And so it's really using patterns to see, are all these 10 alerts telling the same story? And if so, can we intelligently group them, present it at the operator's fingertips so that they don't have to, in this case, sift through 10 different alerts just to figure out what's going on and start to prioritize? And so when you think of that 10-to-1 ratio, in this case, at an enterprise level, that's how so many of our customers, that grouping, that noise reduction, they've been really able to see that mean time to resolution decrease because of the noise reduction benefit that we're talking about currently. So hopefully that's clear in how that automated grouping works for that noise reduction. If there's any questions about that, feel free to throw those in the chat. But I'm going to actually start to dive into a more specific alert level here. So the benefit, right, you have this noise reduction, they're automatically grouped, but you don't lose that visibility at the individual alert level. So we can start with our log analytics alert. I'm going to pop that open. And we can pop each of those alerts open, whether they're coming from Dynatrace, our agent, or the log analytics capability, which we're going to talk about right now. And we don't lose that visibility, but we have the benefit of that noise reduction. So this specific alert that I just opened from our group of alert is something that's coming from our health log analytics capability that James touched on. So remember, our predictive AIOps offering is a combination of our health log analytics, or HLA, as well as event management overall, which we're talking about big picture. So an alert coming from our health log analytics capability is going to look a bit different than what we'll see in our further alerts. That might be coming from Zabbix, your monitoring tools, or the agent. And that's because what this is doing, right, it's ingesting all of your log data. And it's taking all that log data, and instead of just throwing a bunch of detailed log data at you, because it can get really in depth there, what it's doing is it's applying those patterns, that machine learning, to look for anomalies in the log data. So what is all this log data really telling you? And it's sending you those alerts to save time. So you don't have to sift through the raw log data, right? It's just going to tell you what the anomalies are saying. So in this case, it's telling us right away in this identified issue here, the volume of logs with Oracle database is above normal. We can get some additional information here. It's telling us basically there's been a spike in the total volume of logs. And to really see what exactly does that mean, how big of a spike, why did you bring this to my attention? We can actually look at our anomaly panel here, and it's going to tell you the health log analytics capabilities using that machine learning to tell you, well, why is this anomalous? And you can see in this case, we've had a 358% increase in the last 24 hours compared to what's usually coming in for those type of logs. And to illustrate that here, if you're a visual learner like myself, this tiny, tiny yellow ribbon here at the bottom is the amount of logs for Oracle database that we got one day earlier in the exact same time frame. And the blue line is today in that same time frame. So clearly quite a big jump, probably something we want to have brought to our attention and start to troubleshoot there. And as we saw back at our group of alerts, this wasn't the only anomaly coming in. There were other alerts related to that Oracle database coming in as well. We also have visibility to the actual log data that's being brought in. We can use our surrounding logs tab back in that single alert level. And we can actually query those logs using our log viewer to actually query specific data that we need to see. And we can see those, again, having the convenience of working in one workspace, having that log data pulled in, but getting that high level summary telling us what's actually going on. And then this may look familiar to some of you, and we'll look at this further. This is a consistent capability throughout our event management and also in our incident management. But this agent assist feature here that I just popped out, what this is doing is it's querying your knowledge base based on the details that it's automatically detecting here. And we're going to see this a couple of times today for each of our alerts that we're looking at. And basically it's taking the details, so it knows what we're looking at in this specific case, and it's doing an automatic search of your knowledge base. So any of your KB articles that you have published for your users, and it's going to give you only the relevant results. This is a personal favorite of mine. I've spent a lot of time looking through KB libraries in my day. So this is really useful to save time there. Even if it's a little time, every incident, every event, that goes a long way. So being able to have the convenience there of any KB articles that are relevant. In this case, it told me your volume of logs are above normal. Having a KB article here to tell me, what does that even mean? What should I be looking out for when this happens? And then James made a really good point earlier with that feedback loop we talked about. The machine learning is really smart. We have a lot of really advanced patterns that are working, but your operations teams are really unique. You've been doing this for a long time. And so being able to tune that machine learning and make it custom to your use cases. If for whatever reason, say this anomaly comes in for your Oracle database and you're like, no, this has happened all the time. It doesn't actually mean anything for us. This just happens. We do not need this brought to our attention as an event. You can mute this and you're really telling the machine learning, this is okay. You need to mute this in the future. Or vice versa. You can also say, hey, I'm really glad that Health Log Analytics detected this. This is significant. Please continue bringing this to us in the future. And this is just helping that machine learning get stronger and stronger as you're applying that feedback. And it's so simple to do so. I'm going to pause there because I see some questions popping up. Make sense so far on the Health Log Analytics specific alerts before we go into the verbatim alerts? Any questions on that? So I see a question off the top of my head. The KB article gets created automatically, or does someone need to put it there? So it's very intentional, right? So as you're publishing your KB articles and you're publishing those to specific users or all users, you're pushing that publish button, they'll be able to show up here. Great question. All right, and we'll come back to some of those others as we continue to go through. Feel free to keep dropping those in the chat or the Q&A. Thanks for your participation here. This is great. So that was an example of our Health Log Analytics alert. I'm going to go ahead and close that one out and go back to our group of alerts level. And I want to now spend the rest of our time looking at the actual alerts coming in from our tools, our agent, or any of our monitoring tools that we've connected event management to. But before we do that, I'm a big fan of working smarter, not harder, if you will. So we're going to actually leverage our service maps that we have in place. So now we went back to our service level for this order status service. And I've popped open my service map right from the operator workspace as well. And so what this helps us to do, instead of looking through my alerts to figure out, okay, like the logs were telling this, the Oracle database, something is happening there. The additional alerts would probably help us pinpoint that. But like I said, I'm a visual person. So being able to pop open that service map from our event management workspace and see those same colors that should look pretty familiar from our operator workspace that showed us the color status of our services. This is helping us to dive a little bit deeper. It's visualizing the entire service, in this case, our order status service, and it's showing us the individual CIs, configuration items, each of the components that are supporting this service from the entry points all the way down. And the colors are indicating where are these alerts actually taking place. So you can also pop open the advanced map. It takes a few minutes. I've already done that for the sake of time today. And I prefer to do it this way because it really gives us the ability to, again, we can see those same colors. We can select our individual configuration items that are in the red or yellow to get some additional information on them. But something really important when it comes to applying things like change management. How do we know what's changed? How can we detect any unauthorized changes that we might be bringing in with our configuration files? You can have this compare view. And so what it's doing, we have our time frame, and you can set this to be hours, days, weeks, months. At some point, right, we went from being in the green, no alerts impacting our service, to being in the red. And so what I want to do and what I've done is I've set point 1 where we were in the green, all good, to point 2 right here where we're in the red, something went wrong. And I've gone ahead and populated my compare view of this entire service map to see if there was any changes that took place that may have resulted in this red status. Again, takes a couple of minutes. So I've already hit that compare view for today. Pull that up for you to see. And so once I put my 2 markers here, and I've set those 2 points in time, I can actually go ahead and hit that compare view, and it's going to show me that same service map that we just looked at. But what it's showing me here are any changes that may have occurred within those 2 points in time that I just set it to compare to. So we can see again at the configuration item level, it's going to show me what was updated. And in this case, the logs told me to focus here in our Oracle database because it was detecting those anomalies. And I can actually scroll down to see what was updated. It's telling me something, a value was updated in my configuration files that we have tracking being pulled in for. And I can actually pop open those, my configuration file that's telling me where that update was made. And it's going to go ahead and make it real simple for me. It's telling me with this legend exactly where that change was. So in our case, the SQL trace was turned to true, whereas it was false or not set before. And so that's obviously going to be bringing in a ton more data that we're now tracking, a ton more information on our disk, which is more than likely our culprit for why that initial alert was telling us that we have a lot of, our disk usage is at 95% was the message of our group alert. So using our service maps, and I like to call that out because it's a really great way to visualize and quickly pinpoint where's your problem child, essentially which of our CIs on our service map it has the change impacted with, our services in the red, what specific component is in the red. Is it all of it? Is it a few? Is it one? And so now I've gone back and I can see on my service map, where it is, what we're focusing on. And so I'm going to pop open my priority alert here at the top of my list. And you'll always be able to tell which alert was set to the priority based on the logic that's going to be tracked at that group of alerts level. So on our details tab here, we're back at this group of alerts level. And this is basically an audit log, which becomes really important for collaboration, but it's also tracking any of the logic that's been made on the system's behalf. So this was all automatic, right? This was from the system, but you can actually dive deeper into the logic that was used, what specific pattern was used in this case, why was this specific alert at the top of our list set as the priority compared to the other 9. And so it creates a really great ongoing audit log for the machine learning that was applied, as well as any additional action that I'm going to take today. Okay, and I see a question in the chat about the change tickets and how that's tracked here. Great question. That's segueing super nicely into what I want to go through for the rest of our session today. So here we're at this again at our individual alert level. We've gone from being at our group level to into another specific alert. But again, this looks a bit different than what we were looking at for a health log analytic alert. And that's because this one in particular is coming from our agent. So this would look the same if it was coming from Zabbix or any of your other monitoring tools, but now we're at the specific alert level. And so there was a question about changes. So this is another one of I'm a big fan of this capability when it comes to machine learning, our predictive AIOps, and that's our probable root cause tab. So this is visible at the group level, at the individual alert level, but what it's doing is it's actually using machine learning to search across your entire ServiceNow ecosystem. And so if it's looking at any tickets, have you made any changes? Have you made specifically any authorized or unauthorized changes? So even if it was approved, hey, we saw a change yesterday at the same time that, this service went from being in the green to in the red. That change was on some of the specific configuration items for this service. Could there be a correlation here? And that's what the logic is doing in the probable root cause machine learning. It's looking at your entire ecosystem and it's going to say, hey, we saw some changes, whether they're approved, unapproved, and it's going to say, you should probably take a look at this because it's affecting similar items. And so right away in our case, it's telling us there is an unauthorized change that's been detected. So in our case, unauthorized. We saw that actually in our service map where it was actually showing us that configuration file that it was tracking, and it actually showed us that exact change that took place. We can get confirmation of that here in our probable root cause, where it said, hey, you have an unauthorized change that's impacting, take a look at this. And sure enough, it's giving us confirmation from that actual change request, that unauthorized change log that was created in the system, we again are popping that open in the operator workspace, and it's confirming what we saw in the service map. If you didn't have time to look at the service map, it would tell you that right away in our probable root cause tab, because that's the whole goal of that feature, to make things faster, bring just like it sounds, right? It's intelligently named probable root cause. So we're able to pop open that change request. All right. So now we have a good idea of our probable root cause. We have a good idea of the metrics, what was going on at our service level. We went back to the group of alert level, looked at each of our alerts coming in. Again, we could spend the time to look at each of the individual alerts, but if you wanted to, but that kind of defeats the purpose of this aggregation, that intelligent correlation that we talked about. You still have the visibility, but we use things like our health log analytics anomalies. We use things like the service map to tell us what's actually going on. We use the change tracking with our probable root cause to confirm what's actually going on. Are there probable root causes in other parts of our ITSM ecosystem that could be resulting in this pending outage here? We have our metrics as well. We have a pretty clear view of what's going on. And so now for the rest of our time, I want to spend some time kind of going through how you would start to actually resolve this at the group level and get to that remediation. So again, using our agent assist feature here. So we've kind of pinpointed what's going on. Again, I love this tool, looking through our knowledge base to tell me at the detail level of this specific alert, what I should be looking for. So I can pop open my knowledge articles. Again, this would be whatever you've published to be available. And so you really leverage your IT team for this. What have you seen to be a quick fix for this? What's worked in the past? Leverage that expertise that you have. So it's going to give me some proposed solutions, whether that's extending the disk space or whatever I need to do there. But for the rest of our time, we really want to focus on automation. So I can go ahead and, in this case, it's telling me to go ahead and extend that disk partition, and I can attach that KB article to my log here, that audit log that we talked about for this specific group of alerts. I can attach some notes if I want to, but again, this is helping to keep track of everything that I've done. So you can see in that audit log updated right away to show me that I've gone ahead and attached that specific KB article. And again, helps to feed that machine learning to continue doing things that are helpful to you. So I have my KB article, it told me what to do. I'm gonna go back to that group of alerts level so I can act on the 10 to 1. I'm gonna go ahead and assign that to me. And then I can actually look, this is our alert actions tab here. I've popped that out. And what this is, these are all workflows that I have permission to use, to click to run. These have been intentionally orchestrated, and these are questions I get a lot, I'm sure you can tell. But these are workflows that you and your team, your ServiceNow owners have created intentionally for you to be able to run. So for example, create incident. We do have several of these out of the box that are really standard that you can activate, but things like expanding the disk space, you can actually configure these workflows to orchestrate back to the resources that you are going to be remediating on to make things faster. James talked a little bit about that, being able to get to resolution faster, whether that's through an automated workflow where you could say, you can actually configure it to say, hey, if there's a group of alerts coming in that meets criteria 1, 2, and 3, don't wait for us to click run remediation. Go ahead and launch that remediation workflow right away. So that's always an option. With that flow that we talked about, you'll want to spend some time getting used to these workflows, being intentional with how you orchestrate and what works for you. So you can always have this click to run option as well, and being able to permission who should be able to run these remediation, what steps should you go through before you decide to do that. So in our case, I'm going to actually go ahead and create a quick incident for our records. You know, we can expand the disk space today, but this might be something that is going to be a bigger incident that we need to address going forward. In our audit log here, I've assigned this to me, and I'm going to go ahead and click to run this specific remediation that the KB article told me to do, our expand disk space workflow. So again, options there, we configure these. You can see my flow designer is launching, but what it's doing, like I said, you're intentionally orchestrating those workflows to run, and it can either be automatic or click to run based on permissioning. So as that workflow ran in my case, I can go back to my audit log here, this action tab here at the group of alerts level, and I can actually see all the way down all those updates that were just made to the group of alerts. acted on it as a group. It allocated 20% more space, and then it starts to individually close each of the 10 alerts in that group. It closes the group of alerts. I have my workflow configured to actually go ahead and create a change log because I've gone ahead and expanded that disk space by 50 gigabytes. I want that to be tracked in a change log for future reference or for my change team to be aware of as well. And the alert group was closed. I can go back to my operator workspace, my single pane of glass. And now looking at my order status service, it's gone from being in the red with a critical alert impacting it, potentially pending an outage. And now I've gone to the yellow status, which is a few more minor alerts to troubleshoot here. So I know that was a ton of information. We did go through it fairly quickly. Please continue to throw your questions in. I see them coming up. We will go through them in just a few minutes, but I want to give us a chance to close out for anybody who might have some more meetings in their day, and then we'll spend a good amount of time going through the questions with our last 10 minutes or so. All right. So just to recap, we saw a lot of things, and there is a lot of great capabilities to go over when it comes to predictive AIOps. You know, one being with the event management, but another part of that being with our health log analytics. So starting with our automation, right? And kind of visibility as well. We took in all of those alerts that are coming in from your existing monitoring tools, from our agent that might be deployed, from that logs that are coming in, and we've aggregated them into a single pane of glass. So you can have that status view at the service level with our operator workspace. And then being able to drill down, have that noise reduction capability, but being able to click into a service, see the alerts that are impacting it, and start to really use some of our remediation capabilities, using those knowledge-based articles with our agent assist, being able to run remediation, whether it's automatically, whether it's a click to run, having those custom workflows to really speed up your time to resolution and prevent an outage. And then lastly, you know, all of this is doing is it's helping you to be more proactive and prevent those outages, but also just to work smarter, right? Leveraging that automation, working better, collaborating as a team. It really all comes down to visualization, in my opinion, being able to have visibility in an efficient way that you're not managing alerts coming in from your inbox that are flooding, overwhelming your teams, having them in one space, and then being able to act on them effectively. And with that, I will pass it back to you, James, to close us out, and then we'll get to questions.
Oops, sorry about that, guys. I was still on mute. So yeah, I think really from a key takeaway standpoint, what we wanted to cover, three main things. With the ServiceNow IT operations management application, you're going to be able to discover and map services for your IT resources across on-prem and cloud data centers. Secondly, you're going to be able to manage the service health and really track and maintain your business operations with AIOps and move from reactive problem solving to that preventative approach using operational intelligence. So again, really coming down to the idea that you can be proactive rather than constantly having to be reactive. And finally, it's going to reduce that noise and increase your organization's agility and improve operational efficiency across your cloud environment. So I know we've thrown sort of a ton at you guys. There were a few sort of questions in the chat that we probably want to get to, and sort of anything else, feel free to pop into the chat.
Yeah, before we do that, Cooper, did you have any notes you wanted to share about the rest of the series or wrap up for today?
Yeah, no, thanks, James, and thanks, Lauren. To everybody attending, as mentioned, a recording and the slide decks will be sent to you. It'll come via email. That email is going to contain, again, the recording, the slide deck. It's also going to contain a link to a microsite. So the microsite is going to be a landing page for this entire series. It's spanning throughout this month until I believe the last session is on October 20th. So you'll be able to register for any upcoming sessions. You'll be able to obtain all the recordings and the slide decks from each session as they occur. And also, most importantly, you'll have that Uber Eats gift card coming through that email as well. Any questions, please reach out to myself.
Awesome. Thanks, Cooper, and thanks for helping us to host this series. Hope to see you guys at some additional sessions. We do have one specifically on health log analytics, or HLA, coming up, and I think 2 weeks. So if you're interested in that, diving deeper, please register and attend. We'll send that out. But let's start with the questions. Feel free to keep sending them in through Q&A or for the chat. First one I see in here from Thomas: how does the ITOM AIOps function leverage or enable functionality from the CSDM data? So common service data model. That's a great question. And so this is big for ITOM because the entire ITOM ecosystem, IT operations management for ServiceNow, is based off of your CMDB. So having that common service data model in place is great. It's just going to make things so much stronger and more accurate when it comes to actually visualizing those alerts, having those service maps, for example. You know, if you have things classified correctly as this is a server, these are my different types of CIs, and they're all in their correct groups, it just helps you to visualize and act on them more effectively. So it's absolutely leveraging that data. And as James mentioned early on, all of the data that we're bringing in from your monitoring tools, again, regardless of what that monitoring tool might look like, it's updating into your CMDB. So it's leveraging that common service data model. It's adding to it, it's keeping consistent, and it's just going to make your troubleshooting that much easier. So it's definitely leveraging it. Great question. I see another question here. How does grouping work? Is it a central repository that has customer information from customers all over? Like in SAM, can I have custom grouping if needed for my org? If you're talking about, and feel free to throw in the chat, Sadhu, if I'm interpreting this correctly or not. So if you're talking about the grouping from the service level, like we saw in that single pane of glass, you can customize that, absolutely. What I think you're talking about is probably the alert correlation coming in, how those patterns are actually working to group those alerts. You can absolutely tune that should you need to. We don't want you to, right? We've spent so much time on these patterns to make sure that they're actually intelligent and they're working on the right things that we see again and again based on our customer trends that are happening. But you absolutely have the power to tune those groupings if you need to. So if there's grouping that's coming in and you say, hey, in the future, I specifically want this to be included in this group, or you see something, for example, that was grouped and you're like, that should not have been related, that's something completely different, you can absolutely tune that. And there's some documentation out there on how to do that. What kind of log volume can you handle? That's a big question. A lot of it, right? So that's the whole goal of our health logs analytics capability, is we're really connecting to the logs that you bring in with your log tool. So I don't believe we have any defined limits there. So if you have a specific use case, feel free to reach out to us directly with our emails or to your sales rep. Happy to address your specific use case as needed, but quite a bit of logs because that's the whole purpose of that specific capability. So it's bringing in tons of log data all day long, whether it's from Splunk or our agent or anything else. We work with those all the time. IT can track the change, whether a change request was put in or not. Yes, absolutely. And I see a couple of other questions similar to that. So in our example, the change that we looked at was an unauthorized change, and how the service was able to detect that in our specific case was based on those configuration files that we're bringing in with Discovery. So when we looked at that service map and it said, okay, there was an unauthorized change here, and it was specifically that SQL trace was turned from false to true. There was no change request put in for this. That's how it knows that it was not an approved change. And it only knows that because the configuration file detected a change. It's comparing to any open change, change openings or change times that were put in. And if it's not seeing a correlation there, it's going to consider it an unauthorized change, and it's going to show us based on any changes in the configuration logs. I see another question. If a change request is put in for a CI, but someone does something additional or different to the change request, how does ITOM know whether it's an unauthorized change? What criteria does it use to determine? So similar question, a little bit different. Again, it's really looking at those configuration files that it's bringing in, comparing those track configuration files over time. And so if there are any changes to the change requests that are open, even if they're changed, again, it's looking at your entire ITSM ecosystem, especially if it's in ServiceNow. It's able to detect those changes. So if there's anything that the change request does not cover and it's detecting a change in that configuration file value, it's going to consider it unauthorized. Great question. From Thomas, does the remediation for expanding disk or self-healing automation require agent, or is it agentless? Does the remediation item integrate with any existing automation tower solutions such as Puppet, Ansible, etc.? So yeah, the remediation piece is you do not need necessarily an agent to do that. So that doesn't necessarily relate to our agent, but what it does come into is more of our workflow. So the orchestration piece, it's more of our workflow capability. We're actually going in, designing those workflows in our flow designer. And we do have several different spokes with our integration hub. I believe we have, I don't know, James, keep me honest here, if we have integrations with Puppet and Ansible. I'd have to check on those specifically if you want to, if you know off the top of your head or want to do a quick search for those specific examples.
Yeah, I can run a quick search, not off the top of my head, but let me look.
Yeah, I know with Integration Hub, that's really where you're going to be able to do those orchestrations for those custom workflows. Like I said, we have a few out of the box that do come with our event management, predictive AIOps, and a couple of spokes that come out of the box for you to do those. But absolutely, you're going to be leveraging our spokes to be able to customize those workflows, to be able to take those actions, but they're not dependent on our specific monitoring agent, no. Okay. From Carol, for changes, adding additional CIs under related lists, will the AI still find those CIs to know if it would be an authorized change? Yes, it would. Any CI that you've added, it's going to be able to detect any unauthorized changes. It's looking at those specific, if you're bringing in the track configuration files for those specific CIs, a lot of acronyms today. But yes, if you're adding specific CIs and you have track configuration files enabled, it will be able to detect any unauthorized changes coming in. I don't want to put too much on your plate, James. I think this next one from Mitchell might be more for you on the sales side of things. Is everything presented today included as a part of ITOM Professional? If not, which of these capabilities are outside ITOM Professional?
Yeah, so from a SKU perspective, there's a few sort of different ways that you guys can approach this, whether you're looking at it from an a la carte side of things, and that's where we're talking about, you know, the discovery, the visibility, the ITOM health, or the ITOM predictive AIOps, or you can be looking at it from the ITOM bundle packages, which go from the ITOM Operator Standard, ITOM Operator Pro, and that ITOM Operator Enterprise version, or the ITOM AIOps Enterprise. So for everything that we were covering through today is something that, you know, we would be including within the ITOM Operator Enterprise. And then obviously anything sort of that, you know, we've also discussed in terms of sort of the iHub and some of the other things, or excuse me, the integration hub, try to cut down the acronyms. Some of those are additional products. So that's obviously something, you know, that we can talk further about, or, you know, with your specific account representative.
Thanks, James. And Thomas, I just did a quick validation search here. We do have spokes with ServiceNow specifically for Puppet, Rundeck, and Ansible. So you would be able to create custom workflows for all three of those in your use cases. All right, I think we ran through those pretty quick. If there's any other questions, feel free to throw them into the Q&A or the chat, and we'll stay on here. But if you have to drop, I know we'll give you 10 minutes back in your day. We'll stay on for any questions that may come up, or if you want to come off mute for the last 10 minutes, we can do that as well. But thank you guys so much for attending. We hope to see you at some of our additional sessions. This is part 1 of 6, so 1 down, 5 more to go. Should be a great series. And thanks all for your time. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it. And as Lauren said, feel free ping over any other questions that you guys might have.
Oh, I see one more question coming in. Can you purchase the ITOM agent separately? For that one, James, you would have to have, for the ITOM, if we're talking about the specific agent for monitoring, right? You would need the event management for that, or can you buy it separately?
No, correct. You would need the event management portion of it. So once we're talking about the event management, that's again sort of features that are then included in the ITOM health or the ITOM predictive ops if we're talking about the a la carte licenses.
Awesome. All right. Hey, so if there's any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, James, or Lauren. Again, slide decks, recording, everything will be provided. Please give me a day or two to send those out. You will be getting those Uber Eats gift cards, I promise. But yeah, we'll give everyone 9 minutes back today and hope to see you in other sessions in the series. Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.